Hey and welcome to the WildStar All You Need to Know. In this episode you will learn all about the Endgame Zones on Nexus, and it will start in 3, 2, 1, go! You have just reached level 50 and you're thinking, okay, I only have to run instances now and wait for matchmaking pop-ups? False, because the really cool adventure will begin just now. On Nexus you can find a lot of level 50 only zones where you can do a lot of different activities, and that's the topic of this guide. In general, there are two different types of endgame zones in WildStar. On the one hand, there are pocket-capped player spaces called PCP'S, and on the other hand, there are story zones. First, let's take a look at the PCP'S. You already know some of them because PCP'S are the starting zones on Nexus. However, not the present version, but a version of the future. Sounds strange? So, you needed some time to become level 50, and during this time the zone was also leveled to 50. Sounds consistent. At this time there are three different PCP'S. Northern Wastes, which you may know as the Exile starting zone Northern Wilds. Crimson Badlands, which you may know as the Dominion starting zone Crimson Isle. And STAR-COMM BASIN, which you may know as the Dominion starting zone Livian Bay. Generally, the size of these zones hasn't changed, so they are small, but it's not bad because you don't have to do so much things there. To be honest and a little bit mean, all three PCP'S are only zones for a daily quest grind with some exceptions. For the beginners here, that means you only have to do about 10 daily quests a day at each zone to get some reputation. However, STAR-COMM BASIN is a little bit different from the other two zones, because there is also a public event and the daily quests do have a rotation, so you don't have to do the same quests over and over again on every day. It's a little bit less boring. In addition to the daily quests, you can find rare mobs, discoveries and challenges in all three zones as an avocation. So they are not ultimate zones full of activities, but you can have some fun there and get beginner rewards. And that's the next topic. Why should you do daily quests? There's a specific faction in each zone. By doing daily quests you can earn reputation. To increase your reputation level and to get new rewards at the reputation vendor. There you can find equipment pieces for beginners, housing decor, cosmetic stuff like mounts, customs and pets, cooking recipes and consumables. The most important thing is that you can buy one AMP or ability point at the last reputation level of each endgame faction, and of course you will get some gold by doing daily quests. In summary, I would say that these zones are only an avocation. By doing daily group quests you can meet many other new players, and some of the reputation rewards are nice for beginners. However, it's only a grind of daily quests, and if you don't like such a system, you won't like these zones on Nexus as well. Alright, I think that's all about PCP'S, but of course you need to know where you can find all of these zones, because you can't travel to them on your mount or something like that. Although the PCP'S are the starting zones, they have an own instant version and you can only enter them by a teleporter. You can find those at your capital city spaceport, next to all other teleporters. When you teleport into a PCP, you will land directly in the major faction hub where you can find all important quests. Now let's go over to the story zones, and there are two of them on Nexus at this time, Blighthaven and the Defile. In general, story zone means that those areas are big and you can do a lot of stuff there. So the world story will be retold, which had its final climax while your leveling phase in Grimvault. Do you remember? Drusera, Entity, Eldon and so on. Actually, story zones do have the same structure. There are 3 or 4 quest episodes which are oriented to subzones of the whole area. One of these episodes consists of several group quests, and unfortunately this episode is the most interesting one of each zone. So you have to find some other players to learn more about the world story. Mostly it's possible to do these quests with 2 or 3 friends. You will earn equipment pieces as a quest reward, which are nice for fresh level 50 players. So if you don't want to run some dungeons or other things, you can do the quest episodes to get your starter gear. Besides quests for some story, you can find rare mobs, discoveries and challenges in all story zones. In addition, each area has an own public event for 20 players, but you don't really need 20 players if you have enough time. In Blighthaven the public event is called Guardians of the Grove. This is kind of a tower defense game which is divided into 3 phases. It takes about 25 minutes to finish it successfully. Each player is able to start it at the Grove of Hope. In the Defile, the public event is called Siege of the LIGHTSPIRE. This is kind of a battle attack event. Your group has to complete several phases in which you have to kill different targets to clear the way to the final nasty boss. The needed time to complete this event depends on your group size. It could take 15 to even 50 minutes. There are daily quests for both events at the respective zone, and based on the medal you can get epic starter gear as well as some cosmetic stuff and consumables as a reward. So much for public events. Another content for PvE groups are world bosses. One world boss is living in each endgame story zone. You can get a daily quest for killing them in the respective zone, and if you want to know more about world bosses, you should watch the All You Need to Know episode about this topic. Beside world bosses, there is a boss enemy in each zone for 5 players. You can also kill them for a daily quest, and if you have done all story quests in this zone, you will know the respective boss because it's the last boss of the group quest episode. What shouldn't be missed is that all story zones are independent zones on Nexus. That means you will also find path missions while you are discovering the area, like in the leveling zones of WildStar. As always, path missions will be unlocked automatically in the objective tracker. And last but not least, there are also factions with a reputation vendor in each story zone. The rewards are the same like in PCP zones, maybe a little bit better. To increase your reputation, you have to complete quests, and there are some daily quests after you have finished the normal quest episodes. Mostly these daily quests are only normal quests of an episode as a repeatable version. I recommend any WildStar beginner to comply on a fixed visiting order for these zones to learn more about the world story in the right order. To do this, you have to visit Blighthaven first. You can find it in the north of Grimwald and it's really beautiful, at least in the back part. In the front part you will see a corrupted area again. After Blighthaven you will travel into the D-File. The special thing here is that when you have finished all quest episodes, Duzera will give you a quest to visit the Omnicore 1. That's the first endgame story solo dungeon. Every player should play that at least once, because a lot of secrets will be lifted while the quest line around it. All of these zones I have just described are quite nice for solo players who don't really want to go into instances or do PvP. They offer a lot of activities and you can learn more about Planet Nexus. But I have to be honest, most of the events won't be played often. But for almost all endgame events there is a contract, and in the case of an active event contract, you will find a lot of groups for the specific event. And now I would like to talk about another zone for level 50 players briefly. MALRGAVE. Yes, it's the leveling zone for players at level 42, but as you have maybe seen, the northern part of this area is for level 50 players. It's a contaminated region, and there you will find another public event, which starts automatically every few hours. Depending on the amount of players who participate in, it will take 30 or even 60 minutes to complete it. There is a nice story behind it and you have to do different activities based on your path. Unfortunately, there is no contract for this event, so you really need luck to find people who want to play it. The funny thing is that there is their own faction only for this event with a reputation vendor. You get reputation by completing the event or kill specific enemies in this area. To be honest, it's not really worth it. So if you want to do it, but you don't have to do it. Alright, in general we are done, but I want to give you some more tips about endgame zones. First of all, after you have reached level 50, you should take a look at the venture board in the spaceport of your capital city. There you can accept quests which will lead you into the endgame zones. And the other tip is, each zone has a faction, and I want to remind you that you can increase your reputation points only by doing contracts instead of doing daily quests of these factions, because you will get the Protostar reputation vouchers by doing contracts. If you want to learn more about contracts, you should watch the All You Need to Know episode about it. So, I don't have to say more about this topic. Now you should know all important facts about the endgame zones on Nexus. Go and discover them. Have fun!